The movements of the Sword Saint were relentless, his actions continuous and unceasing. I admire the Sword Saint, and I want to become like him. I revere his strength, but more than that, I admire the way he achieved this strength. I've been too confident in my so-called transcendent title, unconsciously underestimating the Sword Saint. I am still much weaker than the Sword Saint, much weaker, but one day, I will reach a new height, even higher than his. I want to surpass him. Kim SeoJoon had to be tenacious, determined not to give up. He kept countering, even as the Sword Saint continuously struck him down. Suddenly, in a fleeting moment, he felt his weapon lighten in his hands. Every step forward was indescribably difficult. In that daze, with a swift motion, the Sword Saint's blade slashed across his body, causing him to collapse, bleeding, and in agony. "Keep your promise," Kim SeoJoon whispered with the last of his strength before blacking out. Meanwhile, Man Chul and the mysterious man were trapped in a cave. Despite their dire situation, Man Chul remained optimistic, believing that Kim SeoJoon would come to rescue him. No matter how difficult things got, Man Chul had faith that Kim SeoJoon would find a way. After being severely beaten by the Sword Saint, Kim SeoJoon suddenly woke up. Just then, the door burst open, and the Sword Saint walked in, expressionless, and threw the azure dragon sword at him. Everyone was shocked, mouths agape. "Don't make a fuss, I'm just keeping my promise. With that sword as your mark, everyone in the association will know what to do. I'd rather you handle this than do it myself." "Do it well," the Sword Saint said. It was unexpected that he would actually entrust Kim SeoJoon with such a powerful and prestigious weapon. The Professional Hunters Association is a government agency that manages and oversees hunters, while also being a profit-driven organization established by professional hunters to serve their interests. Facing Kim SeoJoon now was Lee Ta-beom, the chairman of the Professional Hunters Association. Outwardly, he was cheerful and smiling, but internally, he was in turmoil. No one could tell. Kim SeoJoon had unexpectedly brought the Azure Dragon Sword to him. Just 3 days ago, Hyuk Seong-in had stormed in, demanding that Lee Ta-beom transfer 3 billion won to Kim SeoJoon. Now, Kim SeoJoon himself had come. This was not a good sign. 4 days ago, a man named Man Chul disappeared after entering a dungeon at someone's request. Since it's mandatory to notify the association before entering a dungeon, please tell me which dungeon he entered and with whom, Kim SeoJoon asked in an even tone. Lee Ta-beom hesitated upon hearing this, as his superiors had ordered him not to disclose this information to anyone. To buy some time, Lee Ta-beom asked to verify whether the Azure Dragon Sword Kim SeoJoon held was real or fake. "If any delays cause issues, can you take responsibility?" Kim SeoJoon retorted. Lee Ta-beom, holding his head in frustration, finally disclosed, "The Holy Sage is investigating the infiltration of a 10-star dungeon at my request. Recently, he found a clue and went to a 6-star dungeon for a secret investigation." "Wait a minute," Kim SeoJoon interrupted. "Didn't Hyuk Seong-in mention that the Church of Justice was behind the 10-star dungeon's destruction? Something doesn't add up." Feeling deeply suspicious, Kim SeoJoon stood to leave. Before exiting, he turned and asked Lee Ta-beom if he could use the Azure Dragon Sword as collateral for a loan from the association. A while later, Soo Ryu anxiously called Kim SeoJoon, asking about her father. He calmly reassured her, but Soo Ryu remained agitated upon hearing that her father was trapped in a dungeon. Her mother had died 11 years ago due to a dungeon break, sacrificing herself to save Soo Ryu. This loss drove her desire to become a hunter, to prevent monsters from taking her loved ones again. Kim SeoJoon gently comforted Soo Ryu before hanging up. According to the association's chairman, the Holy Sage and Man Chul had entered a dungeon with star monsters. Despite the Holy Sage being old and sickly now, he was still one of the 5 strongest beings. There had to be a reason they were trapped in that 6-star dungeon. It might be a trap set by the Church of Justice to eliminate the Holy Sage. In this situation, no one could help them except for me, Kim SeoJoon thought. Suddenly, his phone beeped, notifying him of a transfer from the Korea Hunters Association. "Awesome," he exclaimed. He had used the Azure Dragon Sword as collateral, and they had agreed to the loan. It was a great deal considering the sword's value. This should be enough to buy the necessary equipment. I'm preparing to enter a place even the holy sage couldn't escape, so I need to be fully equipped and have enough money on my card. Kim SeoJoon continued to hunt Shopee sales with abandon. After selecting a new weapon, he immediately headed towards the dungeon. Even though they were just 10-star monsters, hunting them down was challenging. They resembled ordinary trees, making them difficult to spot. Kim SeoJoon, reluctant to risk his life, but eager to test his mettle against them, focused his internal energy with closed eyes. A strange sensation surged within him that words couldn't describe. Outwardly, they looked like ordinary trees, but he needed to assess the power of his new weapon. Taking a deep breath, Kim SeoJoon swiftly threw the weapon towards one of the trees. The sharp blade of the sword was about to touch the tree's trunk when it was immediately deflected aside. Reacting quickly, he managed to evade its counterattack. Not stopping there, the tree retaliated with a forceful counterblow towards him, both in speed and destructive power, leaving Kim SeoJoon in awe. This spear is what Odin used to cast Thaemenia, the first giant to create the 6 realms. Kim SeoJoon muttered to himself, after successfully transforming the Durex monster into a withered, dried-up stump. Considering its destructive potential, it was likely forged from extraordinary materials. As Kim SeoJoon silently vowed and struggled to bring the sword back under his control, he concentrated all the mana in his body. Only then did the weapon return to its original position, but at a cost that left him breathless. According to legend, this sword could automatically return, but its copied version always had limitations. With his current abilities, he could only call it back once. Yet, he was certain that one day he would master this power freely. Luckily, he had pawned the Fan Long sword. Kim SeoJoon grinned slyly. After a few basic maneuvers, he delved deeper into the cave to continue searching for Manchol. At present, Manchol was carrying a stranger on his back, desperately fleeing from the pursuing monsters. Suddenly slipping and falling to the ground, he trembled with fear, awaiting the wrath of the approaching monsters. Just in time, the old man woke up and quickly used a shield to temporarily block the monsters' dark powers, allowing them to escape. "Hold them off! I'm almost halfway to the coffin," the old man shouted loudly to Manchol. If he hadn't brought the old man here from the start, this wouldn't have happened. "Hurry up and run!" After a fierce struggle, the old man couldn't hold on any longer and painfully collapsed to the ground. Manchol, terrified, held him tightly, crying bitterly in deep sorrow. Thinking about his daughter and the future without him by her side, a glimmer of hope suddenly appeared. The silhouette was unmistakably Kim SeoJoon's. He had found them. After instructing Manchol to stay put, Kim SeoJoon immediately charged towards the horde of monsters to divert their attention. Man and beast collided in a flurry of punches and kicks, their combined force causing devastating damage. No matter how many times they struck, the creature's body kept regenerating, making it impossible to get close. "I'll use the sword to penetrate its weak spot." Kim SeoJoon gritted his teeth and ran further away, then hastily grabbed the sword lying scattered on the ground. Unfortunately, both Manchol and the sacred sword hadn't made it out of the area yet. Kim SeoJoon's face turned pale with worry. Without them, he couldn't unleash the sword's power. The monstrous creature grew increasingly ferocious, spewing countless dark energies like a raging flood, making Kim SeoJoon struggle even more. Upon realizing that the other two had safely distanced themselves, he now seized the opportunity and boldly thrust the sword straight towards the creature. It screamed in pain, splitting into pieces, its force blasting out like a storm. This time, Kim SeoJoon flexibly wielded mana, swiftly calling the sword back to his side, looking composed and handsome. Kim SeoJoon successfully earned the awe and respect of the tree-like beasts. "Look, they now understand the danger of this weapon," he remarked triumphantly after several rounds of combat. "But it seems they're all trying to stop me." Picking up the Naya bow, Kim SeoJoon could only afford a few basic strikes against them, knowing the situation would turn any moment. Shortly after, Manchol carried the sacred law to the meeting place as agreed. The current condition of the sacred law wasn't ideal. Now was the time to use the emergency medicine he always carried. It was just an emergency measure, but it would alleviate his condition. Kim SeoJoon gently lifted the sacred law's head and administered the medicine into his mouth. The holy mage gradually woke up. Seeing Kim SeoJoon there, he was a bit surprised. "You really came here to save us. How did you know we were here? Wait, what about those monsters?" Kim SeoJoon, with a cheerful face, answered all the holy mage's rapid-fire questions, saying he had already taken care of them all. He wanted to know why the holy mage brought Manchul here to study the monsters. "I needed someone to move the corpses, and for some personal reasons, I needed to make a ruckus. But I couldn't do it alone with this old body," the holy mage explained. "You secretly did it because you were afraid the Church of Justice would find out, right?" Kim SeoJoon's words hit the holy mage's weak spot, leaving him open-mouthed, wondering how he knew this. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, stunning everyone for a moment. The holy mage's face turned pale, revealing that everything was caused by that monster. For someone as talented as him to be scared, it meant that thing was no ordinary foe. The mountain before Kim SeoJoon suddenly split apart, turning into a fierce mutated monster. It was a mutant. Though, apart from its size, it didn't look too different from the ones he had encountered before. "Let's try to avoid its sight and escape this dungeon," Kim SeoJoon suggested. "I've tried, but it's impossible. Somehow, when we attempt to escape, it detects and chases us immediately. That's why I got injured like this," the holy mage said. "This monster is not just an ordinary mutant. Its shell is too hard, and magic cannot penetrate it. Even if we could break it, its regeneration speed is so fast that it heals immediately. I even thought it was an evolved monster that has eliminated the weaknesses of a regular mutant and enhanced its strength," the holy mage said sadly. He admitted he was old and not as strong as he used to be. Hearing this, Kim SeoJoon suddenly had an idea. "What if, while you're weakening it, I destroy its core?" The holy mage, hearing this, felt as if boiling water was poured over him, worried he wouldn't be able to hold out. Yes, he had the strength to talk thanks to his emergency elixir, but it wouldn't be surprising if he collapsed at any moment. So, if they were to do this, they would have only one chance. Kim SeoJoon thought, and then suggested he would be the one to distract it, so the other two could quickly escape. The holy mage, seeing Kim SeoJoon's sword for the first time, was amazed, his eyes filled with excitement. He wanted to join him in executing the plan. The golden hour had come. Everyone immediately got into their battle positions, ready for a fierce night of monster hunting. The plan was simple. When it was weakened by the holy mage's divine power, Kim SeoJoon would pierce its core with this spear. Kim SeoJoon outlined the battle plan. First, he would lure it away and buy time. During that time, the holy mage would give his all to cast his magic. When it weakened, Kim SeoJoon would destroy its core with the spear. But there were two variables that could occur in this plan. First, he might die while luring it. Second, it might attack the holy mage while he was casting the spell instead of him. The first variable would not happen as long as he performed well, but the second one worried him because he couldn't be sure the situation would go smoothly. He entrusted everything to Manchul. The three of them cheerfully encouraged each other, bracing themselves for a brutal night. That night, Kim SeoJoon held his precious sword tightly, standing next to Manchul, who was carrying the holy mage on his back. "Both of you should stay here and not get too close. If it detects the holy mage while he's casting the spell," he said to the holy mage and Manchul. Seeing the determined look in Kim SeoJoon's eyes, they could only wish him luck. Kim SeoJoon smiled back and immediately dashed towards the opposite branch. Seeing the monster from such a close distance made him feel a bit creepy. More importantly, he sensed a tremendous energy around it. Now he understood why the holy mage had to struggle so much. Kim SeoJoon thought. Taking advantage of its distraction, he crept closer and then shouted loudly to attract the monster's attention. Seeing Kim SeoJoon deliberately provoking it, the monster fiercely swung its branches at him, striking furiously. It attacked more violently than he expected, causing him to stray quite far from the positions of the holy mage and Manchul. The weakening spell was not ready yet. Kim SeoJoon ran, glancing around. The monster's force was so strong that the surrounding ground was soon shattered, and Kim SeoJoon himself was flung into the air like a frog. Squinting his eyes, he spun back towards the monster, but the pressure it exerted made him tremble uncontrollably. Besides trying to dodge as much as possible, there was no other choice. Kim SeoJoon gripped his sword tightly, ready to charge. At this moment, he sensed that the holy mage had successfully cast his spell. The right person at the right time indeed. He immediately sprang forward, standing in front of it, and shouted loudly to draw all its attention towards himself. Kim SeoJoon ran for his life, with the monster hot on his heels. Each of its attacks felt like a landslide, making him shudder all over. Good, it's still chasing me. Just a bit more, and I'll reach the designated spot. If I can lure it there, the plan will be complete, Kim SeoJoon thought with relief as he ran. Just as it was about to catch up to him, the entire mass of its gnarly roots and rugged trunk were bound by the holy mage's spell, restrained by invisible chains. Its speed and strength significantly diminished. The holy mage's spell was indeed effective. At this rate, I will be able to destroy its core. He was elated, but within 10 seconds, he realized the monster seemed to be deliberately aiming for the holy mage rather than him. The holy mage must be out of mana by now, and Uncle Man Chul is just an ordinary person. Moreover, he's carrying the holy mage on his back, which means they can only evade the attacks a few times at most. Kim SeoJoon knew the moment couldn't be delayed any longer. In the blink of an eye, he gathered all his strength into a single strike. With a cold mind and pinpoint accuracy, he successfully drove the sharp spearhead through its core. The monster thrashed in agony for a while before collapsing with a thud. Though Kim SeoJoon had destroyed its core, his body was also drained of energy, unable to recover. He saw Uncle Man Chul nearby, injured in the leg by the force, causing Kim SeoJoon great concern. The three of them happily talked and laughed, celebrating the mission's success. Suddenly, a strange sound arose again. The motionless roots on the monster's body twitched as if stimulated. How could this be? I used the spear to destroy its core, didn't I? Could it be the core isn't completely destroyed? Kim SeoJoon's eyes widened in shock and horror at the scene before him. It turned out the monster had two cores. The remaining core was now controlling the entire body of the beast, transforming it into a frenzied killing machine, unstoppable by any means. The three of them watched in fear as the monstrous beast raged, with a storm blowing wildly around them, as if signaling the end of the world. In a desperate situation, the holy mage mustered his last bit of strength, creating sharp energy waves to hold the monster off. The holy mage has exhausted his mana. He won't be able to hold out much longer. To take that beast down, we have to destroy the remaining core, Kim SeoJoon thought anxiously. His sword, previously hidden among the tree branches, was now inaccessible. However, he still had the spear of Longinus at his side. If he could land a direct hit, he might be able to destroy its core, he thought quietly. Then, he asked the holy mage to use the decaying spell once more, giving it his all. Now it was a matter of risking everything. Kim SeoJoon dashed towards the monster, dodging its enormous roots as he ran. Although he feared failure, at this moment, he was the only one who could accomplish this task. He swung his spear, creating dazzling arcs of light, but before he could achieve anything substantial, the tenacious roots entangled him. To pierce the core with Longinus, he needed to get closer, but there was no opening to do so. This was entirely different from simply relying on it, he thought angrily. One of his legs was tightly wrapped by the roots. Fortunately, the holy mage's paralyzing spell had temporarily halted the monster's movements. Seizing the moment, he pulled himself back. The magical chains were thinning and weakening, just as he had guessed, due to the immense pressure on the holy mage's body. Kim SeoJoon, realizing the holy mage was running out of mana, grew increasingly anxious. He spotted an opening in the monster's defense and immediately rushed forward. However, the monster broke free from the holy mage's chains and swiftly knocked him down. Kim SeoJoon was struck directly, suffering severe trauma as blood gushed from his mouth and nose. Longinus could destroy the core, so he thought he just needed to get close. That was a mistake. He trembled, trying to grasp Longinus, his eyes filled with horror as the monster prepared to drive its roots into him. Just when he thought it was the end, the holy mage intervened in time to block the attack. I can't believe a student like him can achieve such an extraordinary level of martial arts, thought the holy mage. How long has it been since I last felt my body shudder at someone else's prowess? 5 years? In just 1 year, no one in Korea will be unaware of this young man's name. Who knows what level he will reach in another year? This young man has the potential to surpass the nation's heroes and become a hero for all of humanity. But for now, he lacks the necessary strength. That's why you must live, even if I have to die in your place today. The holy mage, in agony, shouted at him to run, but Kim SeoJoon refused to flee in shame. Despite the holy mage's frantic yelling and cursing, urging him to leave quickly, he stubbornly stayed. Kim SeoJoon didn't want to see the holy mage sacrifice himself for him like that. But the current situation was extremely disadvantageous for him. Yes, running away was the best choice now, leaving the holy mage to handle things and taking Man Chul to safety. Conversely, the worst choice was to fight this bastard in such a disadvantageous state. I've made my decision, Kim SeoJoon thought, but for some reason, he didn't want to run. He gritted his teeth, recalling what Hakwin had said during the first lecture. What do you think strength is? Hakwin, the greatest god in mythology, emphasized the importance of muscles during the orientation. However, the strength he wanted to impart wasn't just physical. Strength wasn't just about physical prowess, but also about redemption. Because of Hera's curse, I went mad and killed my beloved wife and child. Tormented by guilt, I thought of ending my life. Luckily, my good friend Geo so persuaded me to undertake 12 labors for atonement. Hakwin had said this. Those 12 labors were incredibly impossible. Killing the Nemean lion, dismembering the Lernaean hydra, capturing the hind of Serenia and the Erymanthian boar, cleaning the Augean stables, driving away the Stymphalian birds, capturing the Cretan bull, taming the man-eating horses of Diomedes, stealing the girdle of Hippolyta, herding the red cattle of Geryon, stealing the apples of the Hesperides, and capturing Cerberus, the guardian of the underworld. After completing these labors, Hakwin's fame grew over time. However, people began mocking him, saying he had committed too many sins to become a hero. They kept finding reasons to say Hakwin could never atone for his sins. Despite the insults constantly ringing in his ears, Hakwin resolutely refused to give up. He only hoped that one day, forgiveness would become a natural part of life, and only then could he forgive himself for that fateful day. Thus, he completed the 12 labors and was honored as a true hero. Additionally, Hakwin saved the gods of Olympus during the war against the giants. Hakwin, who had lost his mind and killed his family, had achieved redemption and heroism through sheer determination and strength. Hakwin, at the end of his journey of redemption, had become the greatest hero. The strength that guided him on his path was his determination to atone. Whenever he endeavored to achieve something or become someone, others would often say it was impossible, based on their own experiences. But Hakwin had his own personal reasons that compelled him to succeed, and that alone was enough to make him a hero. Each and every word of Hakwin's encouragement had penetrated Kim SeoJoon's mind. The fear that had weighed heavily upon him, burdening his chest, was now lifted. There were countless reasons why he thought he couldn't win, and thousands more reasons to flee. Yet, under the guidance of a seasoned sage, the actions of a 28-year-old like himself might seem reckless, but he aimed to live a meaningful life. He didn't want to give up and destroy his future. Kim SeoJoon clenched his jaw in determination, pushing forward. Hakwin's words of encouragement echoed loudly in his ears. In that moment, Kim SeoJoon transformed into a divine force, paving the way to unleash his latent strength. With overwhelming force, he demolished every obstacle in his path, his power surging and radiating throughout space. The monsters, faced with this unprecedented onslaught, could only bow their heads in resignation, awaiting their fate. The destructive power was so immense that it swept away rocks and blinded the core of that monster's heart. After his impressive display, Kim SeoJoon was exhausted, collapsing on the branch of an ancient tree. Under the watchful eyes of the holy law, he was now gripped with fear of death. The world was not as safe as people often thought, and the closer he approached death, the more he worried about it. Yet, the world still needed him, as affirmed by the holy law. That is why I took you on as my disciple, the holy law said. You have exceeded my expectations by far. But still, you cannot escape the deep darkness within your own heart. But reconsidering those worries was indeed far-fetched. It served as a wake-up call for him. Even if he were to die, his disciple would carry out this mission in his place. He saw in this brave young man the dawn of a new generation of heroes, which filled the sword law with pride. The next morning, Kim SeoJoon jolted awake in the hospital. The two old men were only slightly injured, nothing serious. He realized he had been unconscious for 6 hours straight, feeling as if his soul had left his body. At least that seemed to be the case. Everything had been resolved, and there were no obstacles. Park Soo-kun, upon receiving the news, also prepared to visit him in the hospital. Naturally, she was concerned about him. The person who had disappeared along with her grandfather's cherished sword, and now the sword law knew about Uncle Manchel's situation. When a young girl wanted to become a hunter, he immediately suggested that she become her guide. Mantel froze stiff, as if glued in place, thinking he had misheard his two opponents stuttering nonsensically. It wasn't the time. He should pass on his profound knowledge to the next generation. He doubted he would live through the year. And until then, there was nothing else to do. So it was best to dedicate his final moments to guiding his daughter, a gesture he considered a life-saving grace. The Holy Law chuckled knowingly. I should also instruct Kim SeoJoon. But his request was swiftly declined. Kim SeoJoon was only interested in money. Suddenly, at that moment, the hospital room door was unexpectedly blocked. A saint's sword flung to the side, crumpling like a shrimp. Kim SeoJoon immediately trembled as if shocked, almost forgetting to contact Park Soo-kun. The presence of this person also meant they would be leaving together. Kim SeoJoon had not anticipated the saint's sword, and now his mind was tangled like a spider's web. His entire body was agitated, unsure of what to do next. Fortunately, with the Holy Law present, the saint's anger somewhat subsided, and they both engaged in a pleasant conversation for a while. The Holy Law revealed, I nearly died that day, saved by Kim SeoJoon. The saint's sword again pointed towards him, heating the air like a furnace. It was beyond Manchel's wildest dreams that Kim SeoJoon would dare to try and sell the holy sword. Despite the Holy Law's efforts to dissuade the saint's sword, they were unsuccessful. Please forgive him this time, they urged, but upon hearing that Kim SeoJoon had indeed taken the sword to sell, the Holy Law was left speechless. The fire of hatred had already ignited, consuming the saint's sword, leaving Kim SeoJoon trembling with fear. He quickly clarified that he hadn't sold it, but merely used it as collateral, expressing respect for the Holy Law. I won't kill you, the saint's sword declared. So, if you can endure a blow, I'll overlook this. The saint's sword boiled with rage, ready to strike, while Kim SeoJoon believed a single blow wouldn't appease them. They intended to end me with a punch, he thought, retreating against the wall. No matter how much he pleaded, the saint's sword couldn't contain its rising fury, hurling a thunderous fist toward him. After a deafening bang, the wall shattered. Kim SeoJoon managed to block the blow with a powerful wave of his hand, though it stung and nearly knocked him down. He survived. More importantly, his arm remained intact when it should have been broken or worse. The saint's sword's face changed, about to ask how he managed it, when Kim SeoJoon thought they were going to strike again. He immediately summoned all his strength and dashed out of the room, leaving everyone baffled by his sudden departure. Mantel remained seated beside the Holy Law's bed, recounting the incident and requesting to know exactly what had happened on that day. The Holy Law narrated the entire ordeal in the cave to the saint's sword. Still, the sword couldn't believe that Kim SeoJoon could truly accomplish such feats. The Holy Law felt that the saint's sword still didn't fully acknowledge Kim SeoJoon's talents. Indeed, even if what you say is true, I still won't acknowledge that kid. I haven't seen anyone truly talented among those hyped-up S-rank hunters. They're all utterly useless, the saint's sword remarked. The Holy Law shared the same thoughts with its companion, believing that such talent still wasn't enough to be recognized. Both the saint's sword and the Holy Law were heroes who had saved the world from great disasters. Thus, they shared a common perspective. Professional hunters have taken on a different meaning in the modern era. It's merely a job with generous pay, the saint's sword added. They didn't deny that a new era was coming because they were the ones hoping for peace more than anyone else. However, they were still concerned about what would happen once all heroes disappeared and the looming threat awakened. Would the world be strong enough to resist it? I don't know anymore. Anyway, that's the purpose of establishing the Church of Truth, the Holy Law mused. But Saint's sword, among 8 billion people in the world, one person has appeared who makes the impossible possible. Our era has ended, the Holy Law smiled. At that moment, Kim SeoJoon was outside, casually chatting with Park Sukun and Manchol. Suddenly, Shuri rushed in from outside, tears streaming down their face as they quickly hugged their father. Both father and child joyfully embraced and comforted each other. Manchol looked over at Kim SeoJoon, expressing sincere gratitude. They often say the most beautiful scene in life is when everything returns to its original form, he remarked. As time passed, all three of them gradually left the hospital, returning to their respective paths in life. However, there were a few changes. First, the Holy Law accepted Manchol as their disciple. Next, as promised, Kim SeoJoon received compensation for saving the Holy Law's life, totaling 10 billion won. He used 500 million to reclaim the Holy Sword and returned it to the Saint's sword. Though he had almost been sent to the other world by the Saint's sword, everything eventually settled. Initially, Kim SeoJoon hadn't planned this, but fate led him to gain the Holy Sword and a significant sum of 9.5 billion won through those items. With these assets, he significantly boosted the course completion rate to 47.3%. It had been a long time. Today, Kim SeoJoon met Min-yeol again at the academy. Min-yeol hadn't even bothered to visit him in the hospital because he believed Kim SeoJoon would soon recover. Even as everything else changed, there was one thing that remained constant: Dream Academy. It had become like home to him. Kim SeoJoon continued attending Hakwin's lectures. Thanks to his newfound belief in the power of gods, his learning progress accelerated significantly. Hakwin's teaching style remained tough yet logical, blending muscle with intellect. Kim SeoJoon grimaced, feeling that his current physical condition couldn't fully match that strength. Each day, he finished Hakwin's course faster than usual. He planned to use the remaining money to buy elixir, a divine medicine that, if he had enough mana to summon the sword, would turn him into a true disaster on the move. Additionally, the superstore was selling a lot of elixir that could help him replenish mana. After some thought, Kim SeoJoon decided to return to listen to the lectures. Everything seemed fine, except for himself. From now on, he couldn't fully absorb energy from elixir, despite studying and practicing seriously with Merlin. It was all theoretical mana, not related to mastering it to fully absorb energy from elixir. If he had to study anyway, studying now was probably the best option. Kim SeoJoon muttered to himself and messaged his advisor, asking for recommendations on some excellent lectures. The advisor immediately introduced Kim SeoJoon to a series of top-notch lectures that emptied his pockets once again. Park Sukun saw Kim SeoJoon, ragged and depleted, coming to ask for money. She was furious and scolded him like a mother scolding a disobedient child. It must be understood, he agonized, swallowing tears into his own heart. He was only 500 million won short of the tuition fee. Sukun sighed with understanding. Another day, another competition with a prize of 3 million won for the winner. However, there was a problem. Kim SeoJoon needed a team to participate. Currently, there were only 2 students in the academy, his Dream and Min-yeol. If Min-yeol were the one, he could complete his part without any issues. However, according to the rules, they couldn't participate because they didn't have a third member. Moreover, finding someone trustworthy to invite was also a problem. Was there anyone reliable enough to join the competition with them? Just one person who wanted to become a hunter and hadn't yet registered at the academy would suffice. He didn't expect much, just one person. In an instant, the idea of recruiting Suryo Sukun into the academy to participate in the competition flashed through Kim SeoJoon's mind. A bit surprised by his own impulsive decision, he rushed out to find her. He headed straight to the residence of the Holy Mage, where he found him looking weary, leaning on a staff as he stepped outside. It pained Kim SeoJoon to see him like this. The Holy Mage chuckled knowingly, informing him that Shuryu had been traveling everywhere since mastering elemental magic just 2 days ago. She had become his disciple shortly after entering the Hunter's Academy, where the first thing taught was mastering mana and its techniques. Typically, mastering mana for the first time would take 2 to 3 weeks, so Kim SeoJoon was utterly astonished. Sharing a mutual sense of surprise, the holy mage felt a deep connection with Kim SeoJoon upon witnessing Suryu's rapid progress. He decided to dedicate the rest of his fleeting life to nurturing her unexpected potential. Kim SeoJoon then recounted all that had transpired in the academy to the holy mage, expressing his concerns for Suryu's safety and persuading him to allow her to enroll in their academy. The holy mage, who was already under the watchful eye of the Church of Justice, hadn't expected Shuryu to become a target. However, he agreed to Kim SeoJoon's request, considering all aspects for their safety. Kim SeoJoon genuinely regarded Shuryu as a younger sister and would have proposed the same even if this incident hadn't occurred. After some contemplation, the holy mage finally consented to bring Shuryu into the academy. Everyone welcomed her warmly, especially Minhyul. Returning to the matter of participating in the competition, Kim SeoJoon announced that the 3 of them would form a team. Shuryu and Minhyul were thrilled to hear this. When it came to naming their team, Kim SeoJoon thought for a while before coming up with the name Dream Team, which sounded meaningful and catchy. With unanimous determination, they vowed to train diligently to win. Thus, they gained recognition throughout Korea, and the name Dream Team became widely known. This was how the Dream Team was formed, sparked by a competition not organized by the government or associations, but by private companies. Simply put, it was a competition sponsored by major corporations aiming to gain access and recruit outstanding students. While some professional hunters operated independently, most belonged to specific associations and functioned as teams. Therefore, the intention was not only to evaluate individual strength, but also teamwork and potential. This hidden agenda fueled intense competition, attracting support from the government and associations in the form of sponsorship. Some television stations and other organizations also joined in. Thus, the current competitive landscape was born, where only top-tier and second-tier hunter academies could participate. This sudden strike competition became the focal point of attention and funding, a stage for the best of the best. Jung Se-woo, Park Hyun-jung, and Do Min-jun from the Gon Academy were present, causing astonishment among everyone. Hearing the gossip about these famous figures from other academies, Minhyul felt dissatisfied on behalf of Kim SeoJoon, thinking he was just as capable as them. However, no one seemed impressed by him. As the first round of battles commenced with the appearance of the 7-star monster spider, Lee Do-hyun from Team Aries grimaced as he observed many teams failing right from the outset. He speculated that perhaps Jung Jimin had applied some new research or had a different strategy for this artificial dungeon, leading to the high rate of failures among the student teams. He wondered how surprised the boss would be with these results and debated whether he should watch the ongoing battles of the remaining teams. The Gon Academy successfully completed the dungeon in 30 minutes and 12 seconds. At the same time, Kim SeoJoon's Dream Team finished in 9 minutes and 34 seconds. However, the judges noticed a discrepancy and remarked that the time measurement was indeed flawed, causing a delay of 30 seconds. The actual time for Kim SeoJoon's team was 9 minutes and 4 seconds, showcasing their efficiency. Returning a few moments earlier inside the dungeon, Kim SeoJoon skillfully used the long Guinness to effortlessly cut through the thick spider silk of the monster. Meanwhile, Minhyul handled the combat aspect. Their teamwork impressed the girl in their team, widening her perspective. Feeling restless, she unleashed mana to emit black energy strands, swiftly incapacitating the monster in an instant. With their task completed, all 3 joyfully exited the dungeon. Minhyul, amidst his continuous banter, was asked by Kim SeoJoon about his weapons. He cheerfully revealed that he had discarded everything except a dagger and arrows, as per his master's instructions. Engrossed in their conversation, they failed to notice the strange and admiring gazes from those around them, mixed with awe and respect. Eventually, everyone recognized them as Kim SeoJoon and Minhyul. Later, in the second round requiring the collection of magical crystals within the dungeon, Kim SeoJoon's dream team again secured first place with a time of 4 minutes and 23 seconds. Moving on to the third round of artificial creature elimination. His team led once more with a time of 19 seconds. Next was the fourth round in the Rayat Forest. Kim SeoJoon and Lee Min-yeol divided their areas, attacking relentlessly while Shuryo supported from behind. They swiftly targeted the roots of the creatures, which continued to regenerate. Despite their reduced numbers, Kim SeoJoon suddenly noticed a glowing object floating above, radiating an immense amount of mana. Speculating it might be the dungeon's core or an intermediary device aiding in creature regeneration, he was startled by a golden glow behind him. Acting quickly, he swung his staff towards the mysterious glowing object, shattering it upon contact. However, his precious bow passed through it as if it were air. A bizarre encounter amidst the relentless attacks of the roots. Kim SeoJoon hesitated momentarily, realizing that he still hadn't fully grasped the power of Longinus. He believed that Longinus couldn't be inferior to any other sword. Determined, Kim SeoJoon exerted all his strength, running back towards the glowing object, eager to try again. Meanwhile, the Gon Academy team on this side also finished, struggling for 44 minutes and 51 seconds. They were extremely confident that their achievement this time would surely dominate the other teams. We made accurate predictions and avoided mistakes. We also doubled our endurance compared to our previous run with Team 6 and Ali. We've broken our own limits. This is the best result we've achieved, Jung Si-woo murmured to himself, simmering with satisfaction. Just as they reached the exit, they saw Kim SeoJoon's dream team already waiting there. They entered and exited at the same time, but Dream's team left first. I think we've definitely won this time, said the girl in their group cheerfully. Jung Si-woo felt this was within expectations. The fact that Kim SeoJoon's team consistently achieved top scores until now was initially seen as luck, but the leaderboard displayed now shattered the arrogant demeanor of others. Dream Academy stood first with an incredible time. This irrationality made the stands erupt in excitement. Do-hyun widened his eyes, silently speculating. With this achievement, Kim SeoJoon's team could step into the professional hunter world immediately after the competition. I'm sweating just thinking about it. I must recruit them at all costs. Kim SeoJoon himself couldn't believe what he had accomplished. Initially speculating that Longinus could penetrate the mana barrier, now the precious sword could achieve the same effect. Finally, he concluded that they had different levels of effectiveness. He had a feeling that this wasn't the unique ability of Longinus. Reflecting on the moment he unleashed his power and destroyed that glowing mass, Kim SeoJoon pondered that Longinus might have the ability to strike directly at the essence of the target. He still needed to experiment further before drawing conclusions. Lost in thought, he muttered to himself. Lee Min-yeol and the girl beside him were also amazed that Kim SeoJoon had made all the demons disappear completely effortlessly. Jung Si-woo swallowed his anger and sought out Kim SeoJoon, snapping at him. What trick did you use? I admit Kim SeoJoon is a rare talent. Not long ago, I heard about what happened in the simulated exam of the hunting team. Achieving an infinite score in round 4 is extremely impossible. If it were Lee Ha-yeon, then maybe it would be possible. I must have underestimated you to compare you with her. Her level is completely different from ours. Jung Si-woo muttered for a moment before turning away and leaving Kim SeoJoon baffled. Lee Min-yeol, furious, followed suit with a stream of angry muttering. As the final round was about to begin, Kim SeoJoon felt that their team might win because they had consistently been ranked first in every round. This set of challenges seemed much easier than he had thought. Suddenly, a loud voice called out behind them. A man approached, hesitantly presenting an offer. I've come here to make you all an offer. If you agree, we'll give you tickets to participate in the competition with a prize of up to 6.5 billion won. The staggering amount stunned Kim SeoJoon's team, almost too unbelievable to grasp. However, there was a condition. You know there will be a 7-star creature in the 5th stage. Although summoned by magic, it's not as strong as a true 7-star creature. Nevertheless, it's not something a few cadets can easily face. Moreover, the goal of this stage isn't just to defeat the boss creature, but to evaluate how the students handle powerful creatures and adapt to their surroundings. These aspects will be comprehensively assessed to determine your scores. Of course, defeating the boss creature will give you the highest possible score. But no team has ever conquered this annual battle. Our condition is simple. Please defeat the cluster monster. If Dream Team fails, they will lose the entire prize money. Each word from the man made Kim SeoJoon hesitate momentarily. If they refused, they wouldn't lose anything. The influence of the three major academies was certainly weighing on them. More importantly, how would Jumziwoo react as planned? Other academies seemed to suspect foul play and were definitely trying to undermine Dream Team and restore their lost honor with this offer. Kim SeoJoon glanced at Lee Min-yul and Shuryu for a moment, unsure of what to do. What should I do? If we succeed, we'll receive 6.5 billion won. But if we fail, we'll lose all 3 billion won that we could have. He pondered deeply, then made a new proposal to the man. The total prize money for this tournament is 6.5 billion won. Use my influence to convince them to increase the total prize money to 10 billion won, and then we'll accept their offer. This statement stunned both Min-yul, Shuryu, and the man. I need 500 million won right now. If we split the 6.5 billion prize money among the three of us, each would receive more than 2 billion won. After deducting 500 million won, I'd have 1.5 billion left, which wouldn't be enough to cover the increasing karmic law. But if the prize money is increased to 10 billion won, I could buy both lessons and elixirs. That would be enough for me to accept the risk. Kim SeoJoon thought happily. The man could only turn back and relay Kim SeoJoon's proposal to his superiors. They could see through the organizers' intentions. I think their combat instincts are really good, but I think they'll refuse. In truth, Dream Team didn't need to take such risks. It showed how confident they were. The surrounding staff whispered in disgust, but he firmly believed that Kim SeoJoon's team could do it. After all, this monster was just a mummy, nothing difficult for Dream Team. The final round of the competition quickly began. For the goal of 10 billion won, Dream Team enthusiastically joined hands and stepped into the dungeon, filled with excitement. As they entered, a sinister aura enveloped everything. Outside, Do-hyun was horrified, spilling his coffee upon realizing that inside the dungeon at this moment, it wasn't a 7-star creature, but a ferocious 10-star monster. It seemed that something had gone wrong here. Do-hyun couldn't bear to witness the students being killed by the monster's ruthless attacks. Frustrated, he immediately climbed over the barrier and rushed inside. Nevertheless, there was still a possibility that students could die from the magic-summoned monster's psychic attacks, which could inflict mental damage. In the past, incidents caused by psychic monsters summoned by magic were usually creatures of 5 to 6 stars. Now, facing a 10-star psychic monster, it wasn't something the students could easily contend with. Do-hyun was horrified, thinking that Min-yul and Shuryu were currently under the control of the monster's psychic influence, their minds agitated and in disarray. If this continued, the entire Dream Team would suffer disgraceful deaths. The machinery coordination was overwhelmed and struggling with no solution in sight. Furious, Do-hyun cursed the useless staff, tearing his hair in frustration as he thought of Jimin. Suddenly, the system display showed a scene that astonished everyone. Kim SeoJoon was directly confronting the monster, yet his mind remained calm as if nothing unusual was happening. Earlier, Shuryu and Min-yul had attempted to control the monster's mind, causing them to clutch their heads, rolling on the ground and screaming incessantly. The monster now redirected its focus towards Kim SeoJoon. You must be feeling victorious now, but for how long? The monster taunted. Do you not realize you're nothing? How shameful! Do you think you'll continue to succeed even after becoming a professional? In the midst of its arrogant rant, the monster suddenly froze, stunned to find Kim SeoJoon as composed as a block of tofu. This was all thanks to the rapid advancement of his enlightenment process. Seizing the opportunity while it was off guard, Kim SeoJoon swiftly wielded his staff, causing the monster to panic and attempt to retaliate with shattered, incoherent words. In Kim SeoJoon's mind, amidst the infinite thoughts, the sinister intentions of the vengeful daughter were sprouting seeds of doubt and worry that he had harbored deep in the darkness. It was the ancient teachings of his teachers that had elevated his enlightenment process to an infinite level. while the malicious whispers of the monster continued to echo in his ears, clinging persistently like leeches. One person spoke of desperation about their past, while another worried about the future, and another found tranquility in the present moment. If the painter lets greed cloud their vision and paints a picture with malice, the result will be stained black. Sometimes, one must release burdens and doubts from within their heart. If feeling confused, accept the present, climb the verdant mountain peak, and lay down to listen to the sounds of water and the azure clouds in the sky, akin to the mountains, rivers, and earth surrounding them. Aren't we all children of the universe, deserving to be where we belong, even if one doesn't feel so? Through trust in these magnificent truths, SeoJoon successfully escaped the psychological manipulation of the monster. Boljo bestowed upon SeoJoon the strength to gain insight and realize the truth of his life through the advice and teachings of the people. SeoJoon was able to cleanse away the dark veils enveloping his life, steadfastly advancing forward. Directly facing the bewildered monster, every nerve in SeoJoon's body tingled as if shocked, the seeds of doubt and worry withering away. He would no longer be swayed by sinister intentions. In other words, he was in a state of unshakable determination. With closed eyes and focused mind, SeoJoon's body emitted an intense, blinding light as he wielded his staff, swiftly striking towards the monster, returning it to the earth in an instant. The system screen dimmed and abruptly went dark, causing a commotion like a swarm of bees. The organizers were puzzled by this strange scene. The creature was originally an intelligent 10-star monster. Honestly, no student here could withstand its psychic attacks. Moreover, physical attacks had no effect on it, as it was a ghostly entity without a physical form. That's why only those with spiritual powers could handle an 8-star dungeon ghost, which had appeared in Korea before. However, SeoJoon defeated it with just one strike. He truly isn't someone our guild can easily manage. Do-hyun chuckled in the players' waiting room, his eyes widening with amazement as he witnessed SeoJoon's recent performance. A 10-star monster summoned through magic should at least be an 8 or 9-star creature. With 9-star monsters, only S-ranked hunters can effectively attack them. Otherwise, it's nearly impossible. If it were Lee Hyun, maybe he could handle it. But that's not possible, Do-hyun continued. SeoJoon, after the intense battle with the dungeon ghost, was trembling and unable to stand up properly. Could it be because his enlightenment progress had increased? He had spent 90 days, progressing only 17.5%. But now it had jumped to 31.7%, an increase of 14.2% in a short time. No matter how you look at it, that's the pinnacle of enlightenment, the joke remarked. While SeoJoon was disheartened, Lee Min-yeol and Shuryo had regained consciousness. They were again stunned and almost fainting upon learning that SeoJoon had defeated the monster on his own. The three of them supported each other, limping out the door. As soon as they appeared, they were surrounded by recruiters from famous universities, all clamoring to recruit SeoJoon. The scene was chaotic, like a bustling market. Do-hyun immediately rushed in to rescue them from the mob. Park Soo-kun received news and hurried to the hospital to check on him. Thankfully, he was fine. I was very scared because I thought something terrible would happen to him. SeoJoon. He still hadn't participated in the professional hunter test, but I couldn't see him as just a student anymore. This had been decided from the first meeting. I also gained a lot from SeoJoon. It was obvious and worth celebrating. But what were these complex emotions in my heart? SeoJoon hugged himself awkwardly, and suddenly there was a knock on the door. It turned out to be the chairman himself, who had come to see him because of the jokes incident this time. The young man was holding a dragon sword, the sword that the saint had never entrusted to anyone. Upon hearing that the joke had appeared, I thought no one could survive. He handled everything himself. Finally, I understood why Seom cared so much about him. Moreover, even the beloved granddaughter of the Sword Saint was by his side. Fortunately, I came here myself. The chairman smiled broadly and asked, SeoJoon, now is a good time to remember what just happened. Why did the boss have to be Draugr and not a mummy? This is all because the mana core of the dungeon was overloaded by Jung Ji-min. For the first time, the mutation research results were applied to this mutation competition. If the reason for the overload of the mana core of the dungeon is mutations, this means that we can create a fake distortion. And if we can really cause a fake distortion, then the Great Flood is also a distortion. Kim SeoJoon was thinking of biting his nails, and the chairman directly apologized to him for this incident and said that the proposal would meet all the requests. Kim SeoJoon immediately gave 3 fingers to indicate 3 billion won and 3 billion won for each person in the group, making the chairman stiff and stern. The raid, filled with unexpected surprises, had finally come to an end. Kim SeoJoon had displayed exceptional skills, far beyond the imagination of the elites from the 3 major academies. Due to the incident caused by the 9-star monster Brow, who overloaded the mana core, affecting everyone from the guilds to ordinary people, all of Korea was buzzing about Kim SeoJoon's dream team. The protagonist, Shuryu, adamantly refused the prize money because she felt she didn't contribute as much as Kim SeoJoon and Minyeol. I didn't do much either. Most importantly, the captain handled everything by himself. We might have died without him. If we died, what use would the money be? Lee Minyeol also firmly refused to accept the 3 billion won, making Kim SeoJoon almost cry with joy. 3 billion won was the first place prize along with a total of 3.5 billion won for second place, 3.5 billion won in sponsorship from major organizations and guilds, and finally, 9 billion won as promised by the association's president. From a total of 19 billion won earned, Lee Minyeol and Shuryu each took only 3 billion won. Adding to his 9.5 billion won, Kim SeoJoon had a total of 22.5 billion won. He could take the holy course with just 4.5 billion won, Kim SeoJoon happily thought to himself. When asked if the team could raid a 6-star dungeon, Shuryu said that he could only raid if there was at least one A-rank hunter in the team, as Sukun was still a B-rank hunter. At this rate, we won't have the right to raid the dungeon, Kim SeoJoon thought, puzzled. Sukun worriedly kept apologizing, making Kim SeoJoon a bit embarrassed. But now, what should he do? Since he couldn't raid a 6-star dungeon, he couldn't make much money. Should he wait a bit to earn 4.5 billion won, or should he buy the mana course first? It would be best to learn both or ask the advisor, Kim SeoJoon thought as he fumbled with his phone. Suddenly, the advisor jumped out of the screen, nearly giving Kim SeoJoon a heart attack. Not funny, Kim SeoJoon said tensely. Hearing about his dilemma of which course to take first, the advisor suggested that he could take both if he got a karma discount, leaving Kim SeoJoon astonished. It was exactly as it sounded, a special event where he would get a discount based on his karma. Kim SeoJoon had heard of such discount events existing in the Supreme Academy, though they were not very common. He could get up to a 100% discount. Kim SeoJoon felt as if fireworks exploded in his ears. The shock was overwhelming. He couldn't even dream that one day he could take the Jekyundae Song course for free. There was an event happening at their academy, specifically designed to support students with the highest scores. It was exactly an event to help those who scored high in the mock exam, the advisor explained. Recalling his previous mock exam scores, Kim SeoJoon realized that they were quite dismal. He had barely scraped through. But unlike back then, he now knew the footwork of Jeong Sambom and the strength of Hakwin. His determination and mindset had also grown significantly. So perhaps he could score higher if he took the test again, though it still seemed impossible to score high enough to become one of the top students. Kim SeoJoon was pulling his hair in frustration when the advisor changed his tone, giving him a glimmer of hope. The advisor revealed that instead of calling them the students with the highest scores, it would be more accurate to call them the students with the most improved scores. Simply put, the event considered the increase in scores compared to the previous test. The discount rate would match the improvement rate. For example, if his score increased by 50% compared to the previous test, he would receive a 50% discount. This meant he didn't need to achieve a perfect score. The benchmark would be his previous test score. The advisor smiled and said that as long as Kim SeoJoon's score was better than before, it would be okay. Feeling that he couldn't pass up this opportunity, Kim SeoJoon immediately agreed to give it a try. That afternoon, Kim SeoJoon prepared a fake gold bar that Fania liked and paid the registration fee to participate in the mock exam. If I do this, I'll have 21.5 billion won left. I need to achieve at least a 60% discount to bring it down to 10.8 billion, so I can get both courses. Additionally, if I consider the 2 billion gold for the elixir, I need a 70% discount. In terms of points, that would be 20.3. There are a total of 7 subjects, and I just need to increase my score by 3 points in each subject. Perfectly doable, he thought, feeling optimistic.